under the name of White Croats is considered a group of Slavic tribes who lived among other West and East Slavic tribes in the area of Bohemia, Lesser Poland, Galicia and Western Ukraine. They were documented primarily by foreign medieval authors, and have managed to preserve their ethnic name to the early 20th century. In the 7th century, some White Croats migrated from the homeland White Croatia to the territory of modern-day Croatia. Origin. It is generally considered that the name of Croats, Hrvat, Harvat, etymologically is not of Slavic origin, but a borrowing from Iranian languages. It is considered that the ethnonym Hrvat is first attested on the two Tanais tablets, found in the Greek colony of Tanais in the late 2nd and early 3rd century AD, at the time when the colony was surrounded by Iranian-speaking Sarmatians, the first Iranian tribes who lived on the shores of Sea Vazov were Scythians, who arrived there c. 7th century BCE. Around the 4th century BCE they withdrew before the incursions of Sarmatians. In that area occurred extensive early Slavic and Iranian cultural and linguistical contacts. For the 4th until the 7th century, Slavs who lived in that area and to the west between Dniester and Dnieper in the medieval sources were known as Antes. It is thought that White Croats were part of the Antes tribal polity who migrated to Galicia in the 3rd–4th century, under pressure by invading Huns and Goths. They lived there until the Antes were attacked by the Pannonian Avars in 560, and the polity was finally destroyed in 602 by the same Avars. The theory is further explained with the Avars' destruction of Antes tribal polity in 602, and that the early Croats' migration and subsequent war with Avars in Dalmatia can be seen as continuation of war between Antes and Avars. The epithets White for Croats and the homeland Croatia, as well as Great for Croatia, is in relation to the symbolism used in ancient times. The epithet white is related to the use of colors for cardinal directions among Eurasian people. It meant Western Croats, in comparison to lands where they lived before. The epithet great signified subsequently populated land, but also old, ancient, former homeland for newly arrived Croats to the Roman province of Dalmatia. To this day there's a dispute among Slavic scholars whether they were of Irano-Hellenic West Slavic or East Slavic origin, whether the early Croats were Slavs who had taken a name of Iranian origin or were ruled by the Sarmatian elite caste, or were Slavicized Sarmatians. The remote Irano-Sarmatian elements or influences on the Croatian ethnogenesis cannot be entirely excluded. Any mention of the Croats before the 9th century is uncertain, and there were several loose attempts at tracing Struates and Auhates by Herodotus, Chatti and Chaturii by Strabo, Chotri and Aravates by Pliny the Elder, Horites by Orosius in 418 AD, and the Harris at the Sea of Azov, near mythical Amazons, mentioned by Zacharias Reta in 550 AD. The HROs some relate to the ethnonym of the Rus people. History. Middle Ages. Nestor the chronicler in his primary chronicle mentions them, depending on manuscript, as Horvate Belly or Rovate Belly. Over a long period the Slavs settled beside the Danube, where the Hungarian and Bulgarian lands now lie. From among these Slavs, parties scattered throughout the country and were known by appropriate names, according to the places where they settled. Thus some came and settled by the river Mirava, and were named Moravians, while others were called Czechs. Among these same Slavs are included the White Croats, the Serbs, and the Corinthians. For when the Vlachs attacked the Danubian Slavs, settled among them, and did them violence, the latter came and made their homes by the Vistula, and were then called Laics. Of these same likes some were called Polyanians, some Lutetians, some Masovians, and still others Pomorians. Most what is known about the early history of White Croats comes from the work by Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII De Administranda Imperia. The 30th chapter, Story of the Province of Dalmatia, recounts these same Croats arrived as refugees to the Emperor of the Romaoi Heraclius before the Serbs came as refugees to the same Emperor Heraclius, at the time when the Avars had fought and expelled from those parts the Romani. Now, by the command of the Emperor Heraclius, these same Croats fought and expelled the Avars from those parts, and, by mandate of Heraclius the Emperor, they settled down in that same country of the Avars, where they now dwell. These same Croats had the father of Porga for their archon at the time. That ancient Croatia, also called White, is still unbaptized to this day, as are also its neighboring Serbs. They muster fewer horsemen as well as fewer foot than baptized Croatia, because they are constantly plundered by the Franks and Turks and Pechenegs. Nor do they have either sage nor condure merchant ships, because they live far away from sea. It takes 30 days of travel from the place where they live to the sea. The sea to which they come down to after 30 days is that which is called dark. According to this chapter, the Pechenegs and Hungarians were neighbors of the White Croats to the east in the second half of the 9th century. In that time Franks plundered Moravia, while White Croatia was part of the Moravian kingdom. In the 31st chapter of the Croats and of the country they now dwell in is written, the Croats at the time were dwelling beyond Bagabaria, where the White Croats are now. For them split off a family, namely of 5 brothers, Clucus and Lobelos and Kosonsis and Mushlo and Krobatos, and 2 sisters, Tuga and Boog, who came with the folk to Dalmatia and found this land under the rule of the Avars. After they had fought one another for some years, the Croats prevailed and killed some of the Avars, and the remainder they compelled to be subject to them. The rest of the Croats stayed over near Francia and are now called the White Croats, that is, the White Croats, and have their own archon. They are subject to Otto, the great king of Francia, which is also Saxony, and are unbaptized, and intermarry and are friendly with the Turks. For the Croats who came to Dalmatia, a part split off and took rule of Illyricum and Pannonia. They too had an independent archon, who would maintain friendly contact, though through envoys only, with the archon of Croatia. This migration is probably related to the previous uprising of the Slavs led by Samo against the Pannonian Avars in 632. The White Croats could have been the neighbors of the Franks as early as 846 or 869, when Bohemia was under the control of Eastern Francia. Otto I ruled the Moravians only from 950, and the White Croats were also part of the Moravian state, at least from 929. Similar story is mentioned in the work by Thomas the Archdeacon, Historia Salonitana, where is recounted how 7 or 8 tribes of nobles, which he called Lingons, arrived from present-day Poland and settled in Croatia under Totila's leadership. According to Archdeacon, they were called as Goths, but also Slavs, according to personal names of those who came from Poland of the Czech. Some scholars consider Lingons distorted name for the Polish tribe of Lendians. Alfred the Great in his Geography of Europe relying on Orosius, recorded that to the northeast of the Moravians of the Dalmatia, east of the Dalmatians of the Horodi, and north of the Dalmatians of the Servians Moravians, to the west also of the Silesians. To the north of the Horodai is Mazovia, and north of Mazovia are the Sarmatians, as far as the Riphean Mountains. The initial northeast position was probably wrongly transcribed, as northwest position agrees with other sources on the position of the Croats on Oder and Vistula. Nestor described how many East Slavic tribes of the Polyanians, the Derevlans, the Severians, the Radimichians, and the Croats lived at peace. In 904 to 907, leaving Igor in Kiev, Oleg attacked the Greeks. He took with him a multitude of Varangians, Slavs, Chuds, Krivichians, Merians, Polyanians, Severians, Derevlans, Radimichians, Croats, Dulabians, and Tivicians, who were pagans. All these tribes are known as Great Scythia by the Greeks. With this entire force, Oleg sallied forth by horse and by ship, and the number of his vessels was 2,000. After Vladimir the Great conquered several Slavic tribes and cities to the west, in 992 he attacked the Croats. When he had returned from the Croatian War, the Pechenegs arrived on the opposite side of the Dnieper. Since then those Croats became part of Kievan Rus and aren't mentioned anymore in Russian chronicles. It seems that Croatian tribes who lived in the area of Bukovina and Galicia inhibited his free access to the Vistula River, and did not want to submit to Kievan centralism. By the 7th century White Croats established Fort Torods, which became commerce and trade centers. Galicia was important geographical location because connected overland Kiev in the east with Krakow, Buda, Prague and other cities in the west, as well northwestward to the Baltic Sea and southeastward to the Black Sea. On this route developed Przemysl, Zawini Horod, Terabovlia, and Halych. Polish chronicler Wincenty Kadlubek in his Chronica Pollinorum recounted that Boleslaw the Brave conquered some Hunos seu Hungaros, Croatios Amardos Gentem Validam su Emancipavit Imperia. The distribution of the Croatian name in the toponyms shows that the Croatia around Vistula River corresponded with later territory of Lesser Poland. Many Croats also lived in the territory of Bohemia. The Prague Charter from 1086 AD mentions on the northeastern frontier of the Prague Diocese, Suon, Croatia e Altera Croati, Zalasna. They were probably located around Elbe River in Czech Republic, while others on Upper Vistula in Poland. Some scholars located these Czech Croats on the territory of present-day Krudum, Radek Krolove, Libis and Klotsko. The Vach argued that they had most developed building technique of building fortifications among Czech Slavs. Many scholars consider that the Slavnik dynasty, which competed with the Premyslide dynasty for control over Bohemia and eventually succumbed to them, was of White Croats origin. According to a legend on Wenceslaus I, his mother Drahomira fled in exile to Zorvathi. After Slavnik's main god Libis' destruction in 995, White Croats aren't mentioned more in the territory. Themar of Mersburg recorded in 981 toponym Krivoat of Accuse, which is present-day Gross-Gorbatha, between Halle and Mersburg in Saxony-Anhalt, Germany. A Croatia and Croatia near Halle. In Charter by Henry II is recorded Croatses, by Henry III as Cherbate, by Henry IV as Graward. This settlement today is Korbatha on River Sala, near Weissenfels. In the 10th-12th centuries Croatian name can be often found in the territory of March and Duchy of Carinthia, as well March and Duchy of Styria. In 954, Otto I in his charter mentions Zupa Croat, Hobidu Aspru Riatatis Nostra in Loco Zurigas in Pago Croatia in Ministerio Harchluigi, and again in 961 Pago Croatia. The Pago Cruit is also mentioned by Otto II and Pago Crudi by Otto III. In the 10th century, Arab historian al-Masudi in his work The Meadows of Gold mentioned Harwat in Akurwatan, between Moravians, Sheiks and Saxons. In the geography book Hudud al-Alam, in the area of Slavs is mentioned the two capital cities Hrabnit, the fifth city east of Slavs, and Hadub, a big city where rulers reside on River Ruta. In the chronicles of the time, word Sahr meant country, state, city, thus Hadub represented Croats. In work by Abu Sa'id Gardazi it is mentioned as Rawat. Ahmad ibn Rastar recounts that the land of Peknegs is 10 days away from the Slavs, and that the city in which lives Swntblk is called Rwab, where every month Slavs do 3-day-long trade fair. Swntblk is called King of Kings, has riding horses, sturdy armor, eats mare's milk, and is more important than Subanj, who is his deputy. George Vernadsky considered these details as evidence of Hellenic and Eurasian nomadic origin of the ruling caste among those Slavicis in the Hebrew book. Josephina listed 4 Slavic ethnic names from Venice to Saxony: MWR, WHKRW, TJ, SWRBJN, LWCNJ. Those Croats are probably those who were located in Bohemia. It is considered that the migration of those Croatian tribes who arrived in the 7th century was the second and final Slavic migratory wave to the Balkans. Although it is possible that some Croatian tribes were present among Slavs in the first wave in the 6th century, the Croatian migration in the second wave wasn't equally numerous to make a significant common linguistical influence. The Croatian tribes are seen as a warrior group who assimilated into already present Slavs who were in majority. Archaeology, according to research by Valentin Vaslovich Sedov in 1979, all early mentions of Croatian ethnonym are in the areas where ceramics of Prague-Penkovka culture were found. It originated in the area between Dniester and Dnieper, and later expanded to the west, and its bearers were the Antes tribes. Archaeological excavations in the 1980s revealed a big city of about 250 hectares between Stilsko and Iliv in western Ukraine. Ukrainian archaeologists attribute it to the White Croats. Excavations of Slavic kurgans and tombs in Carpathian Mountains in the 1930s and 1960s were also attributed to them. Some scholars linguistically and archaeologically draw parallels between Croats and Slavs, and the Karpa, who previously lived in the territory of Carpathian Mountains. In the 11th and 13th century, the appearance of tiled tombs in western Dnieper region is attributed to the Croats, and sometime to Vitsi. Scholars attribute to the Croats forts west and north of River Prutan in northern Bukovina, the Revna, Cervona Dibrova, Kodin, Bila, Syrokapoiana, Klokaka, Grobnica, Cervenovo, Orosijevo, Cervone, Uzhor. Religion: Croatian tribes were, like other Slavs, polytheists, pagans. The worldview intertwined with worship of power and war, to which raised places of worship and demolished those of others. These worships were in contrast to Christianity, and conflict when Christianism became official ideology among the Slavicis. The White Croats at the earliest historical sources are mentioned as pagans, and they were similar to Ukrainians who also late received Christianity. Slavs often related places of worship with natural environment, like hills, forests and water. According to Nestor, Vladimir the Great in 980 raised on a hill near his fort pantheon of Slavic gods: Perun, or Dazbog, Strybog, Samogl, and Mokosh. One of the probable reasons Vladimir attacked Croats in 992 was because they didn't want to abandon their old beliefs and accept Christianity. Some scholars derived Croatian ethnonym from the Iranian word for sun, Hvar. Pashenko argued possibility that in the ethnonym of the Croats could be seen archaic religion and mythology, the worship of the Slavic solar deity, or, which is of Iranian origin. Etymology. The origin of the names of 5 brothers and 2 sisters a matter of dispute. They are often considered to be of non-Slavic origin, and genuine names, as the anonymous Slavic narrator couldn't invent the non-Slavic names of their ancestors in the 9th century. It was probably part of an oral tradition. J.J. Mikola considered them to be of Turkic origin, Vladimir Koskak of possible Iranian Hellenic origin, while Alemko Gluharks or parallels in Old Prussian and Baltic languages. Henry Greywar rejected Turkic origin, and related them to Slavic place names which previously were part of White Croatia. According to Gluhark, names Klukis, Lobilos Kosonsis and possibly Mushlo don't seem to be part of Scythian or Hellenic name directory. Josip Modestine connected the names to toponyms from Lika, where early Croats settled. In this legend is probably reflected migration of 7 tribes. Krobatos, readers Revatos, is generally considered to represent Croatian ethnonym Hrvat Horvath, and the Croatian tribe. Some scholars like J. B. Berry related it with the Turkic name of the Bulgars Khan Kubrat. This etymology is problematic, beside from historical viewpoint, as in all forms of Kubrat's name, the letter R is 3rd consonant. Klukis has Greek suffix, as thus the root Klauk has several derivations. Mikola considered Turkic Aluk, while Tadeshliwiki Slavic Aluk and Kluka. Greywar related it with cities Krakow and Glogau. Modestine related it to village Kuljik. Gluhark noted several Prussian and Latvian personal names and toponyms with root *Klauk, which relates to sound writing verbs *Klukati and *Klokitati. The first mentioned king of the Alans was named Kaluk. Labilos Mikola considered it a name of uncertain Avar ruler. Osman Karate considered common Slavic shift Labil and Lt. Alpal. Greywar related it with city Lublin. Modestine related it to Lovenak. Gluhark noted many Baltic personal names with root *Lab and *Lobi, g. Label, Labilis, Labal, Lobel, which derive from *Labalobis. Kosonsis. Mikola considered Turkic suffix ci and derived it from Turkic kosun. Greywar related it with city Kaushitsa. Modestine related it to Kosinj. Many scholars consider relation with Old Slavic title word *koze or *kasez, that meant social class members who freely elected the knez of Carantania. In 9th century they became nobles, and the tradition preserved until 16th century. There were many toponyms with the title in Slovenia, but also in Lika in Croatia. Gluhark also noted Baltic names with root *kaz, which probably derives from Kasti and Thracian Kosintes, Kosintos, Kositon. Mushlo. Mikola related it to the name of 6th century Hunnic ruler Mughal, Muajiris. Modestine related it to Moljik. Gluhark noted Lithuanian Mutlas and Latvian Muka, which refer to the mud and marshes, and Prussian names e.g. Mokal, Mokin. There existed and his king with similar name Musokios, Musosius. Tuga. Mikola related it with male Turkic name Tugay. Modestine related it to the Tugo Mirici, one of the Croatian 12 noble tribes, described in the Pacta Conventa and Supertarch artillery. Gluhark noted Old Norse Germanic *Tuga, which meaning wouldn't be much different from other names Baltic derivation. Bug. Mikola related it with male Turkic name Buga, while the Wiki noted Turkic name of Hun Bokas, Pekenig Bogas, and two generals of Arabian caliphs, Bogaj. Grewa related it with the Bug River. Modestine related it to Busani, medieval Croatian tribe. Gluhar noted Proto-Slavic word *buga, which in Slavic languages mean swamp-like places, and the river Bug itself derived from Porga. It derives from Iranian Pourugao, rich in cattle. Modern era. Polish writer Kazimierz Wladyslaw Wojcicki released work Pisny lud ubialakroba tau Mazarov I Rusi Zednad Bugu in 1836. In 1861, in the statistical data about population in Volhynia governorship released by Mikhail Lebedkin, were counted Horvati with 17,228 people, according to some American documents from the beginning of 20th century. Polish immigrants to the U.S. born in around Krakow declared themselves as Krakis, Krakowiak, or Belokrovit by nationality. Legacy and legends. According to Szech and Polish chronicles, the legendary Lech and Czech came from Croatia. The Chronicle of Dalmatia recounts, VSRBSK Yakutem Jazyku Jest Zema Jista Chavatai Jest IME VTE Akut Jzemi Bezlech Jamutsta JMEBs Czech. Alois Jirasek recounted as Zartatrami v Rovanij pri Risval Rozkladalishe od Nepa Meta Charvatskazema cast Privotna Velike Vlastislavanske, the initial part of the Great Slavic homeland, and VTE Akut Charvatske Zemyabitavała Lusetna Plemena Pribizna Jazykem Moravi Spusa Bemzivita. One of the legendary figures Kyi Shkekan Koriv, who founded Kiev, brother Korivahorov, and its Oronim Korevisia, is often related to the Croatian ethnonym. This legend, recorded by Nestor, has similar Armenian transcript from the 7th-8th century, in which Horov is mentioned as Horian. Pashenko related his name, beside to the Croatian ethnonym, to solar deity or, near Kiev there's a stream where previously existed large homonymous village Horvathka Arovatka, which flows into Usterna River. In the vicinity are parts of the Serpent's Wall. Scholars consider that Croats could have been mentioned in the Old English Nordic epic poems. The verse in Old English poem Widzith the reader is genitive plural of *ridi, and is usually related with the Goths. However, this verse is similar to the one in Hervra Saga OK Hythrex, where prior the battle between Goths and Huns, Hydrek died in Harvartha which is often translated as beneath the mountains of Harvarthi. Lewicki argued that Anglo-Saxons, as in the case of Alfred the Great, were called Croats Horothi, often distorted foreign Slavic names. The legendary Czech hermit from the 9th century, Svatý Ivan, is mentioned as the son of certain King Jestimil Agostomizl, who according to the Czech chronicles descended from the Croats or Obotrites. The White Croats contributed and assimilated into Czech, Polish and Ukrainian ethnos. Some historians suppose White Croats as the predecessors of the Russian people.